Something a little different today. I've got an industrial Siruba needle feed machine. Now if you are not familiar with needle feed, I'll show you exactly what all that's about. I'm filming in the conservatory at the moment, so you may hear a little bit of rain on the roof of the conservatory there, a bit of traffic, aircraft, things like that, so apologies in advance for that. It's just so I've got the room here. So this is how an industrial machine comes when the table there has been assembled. This is the table assembled. You can get them in a flat pack style as well, but this is the best way to have them delivered so that there's the least amount of work involved, either for me or the customer. Yeah, that's the head there. It's around 45 kg, so you may see me do my back in today. But anyway, I thought I'd go through and just show what's involved in setting the machine up and getting it all set. So now lifting this head is probably a two-person job. So just start by taking the cardboard off here. Start protective cardboard sheet. These little rubber bumpers here. It just protects the corners of the machine table. Let's get you a closer look at the sump here. So this is an oil bath sump, and the machine head sits in this space here. Two hinges here at the back allows you to tip the machine back, which I'll show you later. So the first thing to do would be to clean this sump out, just a little bit dirty there, and we'll get some oil into that soon. Now you may notice also that there's no motor under here. This is the more traditional type industrial machine, I guess you could say, would have quite a large clutch motor under here. There's the older style clutch motor, or a direct drive DC style motor. You can see the thread stand is tacked on there. I'll get that on later. The motor is built into the actual machine head, so that's a more modern way of doing things, is they actually build the motor into the machine head a little bit like a domestic style machine, so it's all contained in one unit. Got here. Okay. A box here. This top box here contains the oil, two hinges, the rest for when you tip the machine back. Heavy poly here. Right, she's a beast, alright. Back breaking time. Wish me luck. Sit it there. I'll fit the hinges. They just go into a hole on the back of the bed of the machine. Right, well, still standing, so the back's holding out. It's quite handy, the table's on casters, lockable casters. Makes it nice and easy, so we can have a look around the machine. This is the stopper rest there that I was talking about before. Goes in there, and when you tip the machine back, it rests on the stopper there. And the reason you'd want to tip the machine back like that is so that you can inspect the oil, do cleaning and get in here for maintenance and whatnot. Before putting the oil in, just make sure the drain plug is done up securely there. Got high and low marks here for the oil. Let's go ahead and pour the oil in. We're up to the high mark here. Give you a little tour underneath here. We've got the oil pump with its little mesh filter here, and these machines are they're fully automatically lubricated from this sump here. We've got a solenoid there, another solenoid here. One will be for the trimming mechanism, the automatic trimmer. A little screw here that's an adjustment for the amount of oil that gets delivered to the hook here. Got a couple of wicks that just wick the oil up and supply lubrication to some of these bearings. There's another little wick there. Just make sure that if you are setting one up, that the wicks actually aren't like that one, jammed across the bottom of the machine like that. They should dangle down into the oil. So yeah, that's just a quick look at the underneath there. Bring this back down. She's pretty heavy. Yeah, so it looks like a plain sewer. It is a straight stitch only, which is not unusual for industrial machines, and lock stitch style, so it has a bobbin and a top thread lock stitching. Wherever we look around the back, there's a cable that needs plugging in. That's the comes from the treadle, from the foot pedal, and that just plugs in here. There's only one way that can go. Let's plug that in there. Power plug, 240 volt here in New Zealand. Yeah, this big grunty solenoid on the back here, that'll be the foot lifter, automatic foot lift. I'll just go ahead and remove the thread stand here, just remove the nut here. Remove a nut and one washer, leave the rubber, or looks like a little rubbery type washer there, just to protect the surface of the table, and just tighten that up. Treated myself to a nice set of spanners. I didn't really think I was going to be using the bigger ones that often, but it turns out I have been lately. That's not big enough. That's 22, so it's probably more like a 23. I'll get a bigger one. In the meantime, I'll just hand tighten that. That's fine. These are a little bit skew width there. Just straighten those a little. The hand wheels are an interesting. It's got these. Looks like it must be some sort of cooling for the motor, I guess. It might bring air in through there. It's an unusual. Well, different to, you know, the traditional hand wheels. So we've got the Siruba there. So we've got model number DL7200, NH1, so that's N for needle feed, H for heavy duty, 1. I'd have to look at the manual, I can't quite remember what that's for, single needle I think. 16, not quite sure what that is. We'll look at the manual later on. We'll start by winding a bobbin. The more traditional, well, you know, the older style of machines had a bobbin winder down here traditionally, and because it would engage with a belt that would be running normally to the motor down under the table there, but because this doesn't have a belt, motor's encased in here. There's no belt. We've got the built-in style bobbin winder, a little bit more like a domestic machine. Place a bobbin on there, and for thread, that's a 36 weight. It's a bit ratty looking. I use it for testing, so the customer that this is going to uses a 36 as well. So let's start by putting the cones on there. Feed it through from back front. You can wind a bobbin while you're sewing with these. I'll use this one here for the bobbin winder. So we come down through the back of this little loop on the bobbin winder tensioner. There, in between the tension discs, like that, and then just straight onto the bobbin winder. Just wrap it around there a few times to get it started. Now, unlike a domestic machine, there's no way to disengage the hand wheel because they're designed to wind a bobbin while you're sewing. So I'll be winding a bobbin while we sew. So I'll thread the needle as well. Actually, I'll take you right through the threading process. So we start by bringing the thread from back to front and left to right there. This is slightly angled. So bring the thread through the first, that's the rear loop. Bring the thread over the top of the bar and left to right again through the second loop. Likewise for the third one. And that just helps take some of the twist in the thread out. And then we come down to the pre-tensioner here. The job of the pre-tensioner is to determine the length of the tail of the thread when the automatic trimmer trims the top thread. It trims the bottom thread as well, but this here determines just the length of the tail on the top. So I've come through right to left, around, right to left, again through the lower eyelet, through the tensioner between the discs, straight down through the little guide, and then straight down between the discs, up and over the check spring here. You might be able to hear rain on the roof, sorry about that. Check spring, and then down under this guide here, like that, and then up through this guide. You can just pull that in from right to left there, and then right to left through the take up there, that, down through this loop here, pull it in from left to right, it'll just clip in behind this guide here, and then down through this eyelet there, that guide, another guide just above the needle, and then we just thread the needle left to right. I pulled the bobbin thread back down under the plate so I can show you the pulling up of the, or drawing up of the bobbin thread. I'm just going to turn the machine one full revolution while holding the thread out to the right there. And you'll see the orange bobbin threads come up there. Bring the two threads under the foot there, and we're ready to give it a test. So I'll start by just testing it on this, say 4 layers of sort of a cotton sheeting, heavier cotton sheeting. Power switch on the back here, just flicker on. I won't go too far into the controls in this video. I'll do a second part on the different controls and bits and pieces for this machine. But let's see how she goes. The default setting when they're first turned on, unless otherwise set, is to do an automatic backstitch. So we'll see that when I put my foot down. So, and then we're off. Yeah, tail, I think the tail's a bit short. So it's when it's trimming, it's not leaving enough of a tail. And that's why it unthreaded there. So I'll just need to do a little bit of tweaking. And you can also see the bobbin winders working there. It's nearly full. Just filled up there. Automatically switched off. So they've got a bobbin ready to go. Okay, that's looking better there now. I released the pre-tension slightly to get a longer tail on that trimmer. It's looking good there. Now, you may have noticed the needle feed. I'll get you a close look. On a normal machine, when the needle comes down into the fabric, the feed dogs go down under the plate and stop feeding. and then as the needle rises up out of the fabric, normally the feed dogs will come up and pull the fabric through. This works differently where it's a needle feed, so as the needle comes down, it pierces the fabric and feeds with the feed dog. And if we have a look here, we can see that in action there. Needle feeding. Then it comes forward again and feeds again. So it's in unison with the feed dogs. And the good thing about a needle feed is that you don't get any ply shift. Ply shift is when the fabrics, the two layers will shift slightly. So you'll get one, generally the bottom will want to feed more than the top because the bottom is the one that's in contact with the feed dogs, and the top layer is in contact with the presser foot, and so that wants to push, the presser foot wants to push away while the feed dogs feed through, and that leads to a ply shift where you might get a scenario where you start off with an even edge. Say you were sewing a seam down here, and when you get to the end of the seam, you might find that, or where you finish, if you wanted this to be even at the end, you might find that the underlayer has pulled, I'll exaggerate this, you might find the underlayer has pulled through more so that it leaves this top layer hanging over. And the good thing about a needle feed is it actually punches through both layers, obviously, and feeds with the fabric. So you don't get that ply shift. So there are certain applications that is really good for. Yeah, so they're a specialised type of machine. You generally wouldn't use these if you didn't have any problems with ply shift. You just wouldn't use a machine like this. Get you another quick look at the needle feed there. And you can see that action there. Take the presser foot off and we can have a close look at the action with the feed dogs there. You'll see the feed dogs have got a hole in them. The plate itself doesn't have a needle hole as such. It's got the slots for the three bars of the feed dogs there, and then the actual feed dog itself has got the hole in it, so you can see that. So you can see the needles in unison with the feed dog there. Quite different to a standard plain sewer where the needle remains stationary. So you may notice this button here, that's for reversing, so back stitching. Just like that. Sorry, it's just starting to rain a little bit here. There's also a reversing lever here as well, more like your non-automatic machines. So I hope you enjoyed that quick look at the Siruba needle feed DL7200. The rain's just starting to come in now, so I'll stop recording at this stage. Keep an eye out for a part 2. I'll go through the controls of the machine here in the part 2. Yeah, so hope you found that interesting, and thanks a lot for watching.